Hello and welcome back to Susie B's Moonphase gardening calendar schedule. So we are at Wednesday night and tomorrow is Thursday the 7th of September. We continue on with Roots Day. We've had a few Roots Days already this week, and so we're continuing on, and we are processing our onions because they need doing. We've had them on this stand here in the garage for a while just to dry out. They were first of all outside actually drying out, and then we moved them inside because we got all that rain. And now we are actually processing the onions by taking off all the skins that are not looking too good. They might be a little bit of mold in them, and leaving the stem at the top about 1 centimetre, maybe 2 centimetres. And what we're looking for is we're looking for an onion that has quite a closed stem. See, that stem's a little bit open. So let's find one that's a little bit more closed. There, that's a good onion. And the bottom as well, we take the what are they called, roots? We take the roots off the bottom and then take off all the excessy skin that's not looking so good, and that's how we're processing them. So these ones are the good ones. These ones we're going to store. I'm going to store them in these crates here. So they've got holes on the bottom and they've got holes all the way around. So I'm going to store them in there. And then the other ones that are being kind of discarded that are not so great, these were white onions which were actually my spring onions that bulbed up. So these need to be used straight away, and they're in that section there. So that's for Roots Day. Friday the 8th of September is Fruits Day until 4 p.m. So for this particular period, I am going to be sowing nothing at all. The harvest continues, harvesting courgettes, keep harvesting your tomatoes if they should be coming now, hopefully, and ripening up. Chillies, peppers, all that kind of stuff. Keep harvesting on a Fruits Day, because remember, yum yum. Everything is yummy when you harvest it on the day that it is on the Moonphase calendar. My maintenance and my weeding, we're off to my squash patch. So I'm over at my pumpkin patch or my squash patch, depending on what part of the world you're from, and I'm doing a little bit of weeding and maintenance. My pumpkins or my squash are looking particularly beautiful, the leaves, but when you delve in, there's, well, I don't know what to say. I have a lot of little pumpkins this size here, and this seems to be my biggest one at the moment. So because we're already in September, I'm going to help this one along. This might be the only one that I get from this vine. But you can see just behind it, there is another one here that's not looking great at all. So I'm going to help this one along, and I am just going to take this one off. A little bit sickly. So if you do have some pumpkins or some squash that are growing but not growing very well, then any of the little ones, really, they're not going to come to anything now in the UK. If you're in another part of the world, you might have more luck, but usually on vines for squash and pumpkins in the UK, I wouldn't have more than, if they're a big pumpkin, more than one. If they're a smaller pumpkin, like a butternut squash, you might be lucky and get 3. So anything in between, maybe 2. So all these little ones here, take them off now. And I'm going to let these continue to grow because they're doing really well. Everyone else is on the allotment seems to have powdery mildew, but I better not speak too soon. Also, I did put these in a little bit late, and that's why they're a little bit behind. So I've got my hori knife. I'm also going to take off leaves and give this squash a go. It needs sunlight on it. So Good luck, little squash. And for feeding, I want to feed my apricot trees, and I'll show you why. Right, so apricot trees can still be pruned for the next couple of weeks. So it's a perfect time to start pruning them now on Fruits Day. And this tree here, I only received this year. It was just one main stem, and this is what has become of it. Apricot trees have a tendency to start sprouting out from the main stem, and these shoots here, the ones that go upwards vertically, they are called water sprouts. You get them on most fruit trees. They are really not going to bear any fruit. The fruit that is going to be bared from here is where they've cut out the center and anything coming off it. So this will, and so anything really, as we go down the stem, if you've got an apricot tree, I would be definitely cutting off anything that's about 50 centimeters from soil level. So all of these things, these are all going to come off, the whole lot. And then when I've got my water sprouts, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these back as well. I might get some fruiting spurs from them, but not next year. But this is what I'm going to do. Take it right back like that. The reason you usually get what they call water sprouts, is because things have been pruned too hard, and they've been pruned too hard usually when they're very, very young. The reason I got this apricot tree is because this one didn't really last through the winter, but it is, you can see in the canopy here, it's coming back, but I've also got water sprouts on this. These are all coming off. So let's do it. And these are coming off right at the bottom. And then hopefully I'll get apricots. Oh, and because it was going to be my feeding video, I'm also going to give them a feed because they are in pots. You won't have to feed them if they're in the ground. And from 4 p.m. onwards on Friday, the 8th of September, we start flowers. And that continues for the rest of Friday, the whole of Saturday and Sunday morning until 1 p.m. So for flowers, I am starting to sow my hardy annuals. So I am sowing my cornflowers, my poppies, and my antirrhinums. These should be ready to go out, especially the cornflowers. They can go out this year still, and they can go through winter. They're very, very hardy. I might keep the poppies and the antirrhinums under cover in the greenhouse, but I'll see how they go. If they end up being quite substantial plants, then I might put those out as well. For harvesting, I'm harvesting some lovely Calabrese. I've got some beautiful Calabrese ready over at the allotment, and that is also broccoli if you're from a different part of the world. So that's very delicious. For my weeding and maintenance, I am keeping on top of deadheading my dahlias because they are coming really beautifully. With all this hot weather that we're having now, they are doing absolutely fantastic. And to keep the flowers coming, keep deadheading. And while I'm doing that, I'm also weeding the borders at the same time. I just want to show you what to deadhead on a dahlia, because I get asked this quite a lot. When a dahlia has finished flowering, it ends up having this kind of conical head here, and it's got a point on the end of it. So this one has finished. So I'm going to take that off. There we are. And these ones have finished as well. So they're going to close up, and they're going to be conical heads as well. So we take those off. When a dahlia hasn't flowered yet, it looks like this. It's like a little pom-pommy head, much rounder. There's another one there. So don't snip those ones off. They're just about to come. And then for feeding, I am going to be feeding my cauliflowers. They have taken beautifully into the ground, and I'm just going to give them a little bit of a boost with just a normal everyday feed. And finally, the rest of Sunday from 1 p.m. is leaves again. One of my favourite times because there's a lot to do at this time of year with leaves. I am going to be sowing my lettuce that's going to be taking me into the winter. So there are some certain varieties that are quite important that I've been using for quite a long time, and they give me beautiful leaves. I'm harvesting my perpetual spinach because, as you can see, it's starting to go to seed, so that's ready to come out, and then I will be taking over with true spinach, so that's going to be yummy. I'm going to be making a tart with this spinach, and it's going to be with cheddar cheese. For my weeding, I've got cabbages at the allotment, and I've also got kale to keep weeding, so I'm going to continue to do that. And then for my feeding, my chard just needs a little bit of a feed here at home in the kitchen garden. The one on the allotment's doing really well, but it is actually newer, so I'm going to give my chard a good nitrogen feed. Okay, so that's it for the rest of the week. As you can see, I love using this Moonphase gardening schedule because it keeps me on track. It gives me ideas every day of different things to do in the garden, and you don't kind of get that overwhelm of having to do absolutely everything. If it's a leaves day, I deal with my leaves. If it's a roots day, I deal with my roots, and it works beautifully for me. I hope it will work for you, and I hope I've inspired you to give it a go. So thank you very much for watching once again. I'm Susie B from Susie B Living. Thumbs up and subscribe. I'll see you again on Sunday night, the 10th of September. And until then, I hope you enjoy the weather and keep Moonphase gardening. See you later.